Welcome back to the Marter Show. It's your girl Lo, and I'm back with another video. Before we get started on this review, I do have a few updates that I do want to share with the Marter gang. Your girl been busy. She been cooking up, thinking about different ideas to bring to the channel. Guys, I'm sorry. It's been a crazy past few weeks. I definitely had a few moments where I just needed to think. I just needed time to create and come up with the next piece of content. As you know, being a content creator, it's a tough job. You're constantly having pressure, not only to create great content, but you want to put out content that people enjoy and people can actually learn from. So I can't tell you how many videos that I've done already that I haven't posted, just because I genuinely take my job seriously, and I would love for you guys to enjoy the type of content that I put out there. All right, so enough about that. Today's topic is all about Snowfall. Snowfall is an amazing series on FX. It's a drama series that basically takes a deeper look into the crack epidemic of the early 1980s and how it affected Los Angeles. For those who are not aware, the crack epidemic mostly affected Black and brown communities all over the US, but this specifically takes a deeper dive into what occurred in Los Angeles. So the main characters are Franklin Saint, who is played by Damson Idris, and with his best friend Leon, who basically helps him throughout the drug game. Leon is his right-hand man, very loyal, willing to do almost anything, to support Franklin. I'm gonna scale it back actually. So just so you guys can understand the characters and the plot and basically how it led up to him being a kingpin, it actually took a minute for him to get to that point. He started off, when I say he, I mean Franklin Saint. He started off as like a good kid. He started off just being into his school, into just being a good son for his mother, and just being an overall great kid, right? But unfortunately, while he was in college, away at college, he ended up finding out that his scholarship wouldn't be able to pay for his education. So that's why he came back to the neighborhood, and he pretty much got into the drug game because, let's face it, if you're a young Black man in the early 1980s, the opportunities are almost slim to none. If you're not going to college, if you don't have, any connections, you will more than likely fall into the category of, drug dealer. Especially during this time, because it was a very volatile time, and he had to make it happen for him and his family. All right, so speaking about his family, we have his mother, who they call Sissy. Think of her as an intelligent, independent woman, a go-getter, very smart, pretty much different, you understand? And I appreciate this character because it shows a glimpse of not all people from the hood or ghetto have to speak in a ghetto way. They can articulate themselves, they can have interesting conversations. So I really enjoy her character because it's like how should I say? It's like an archetype that isn't really shown in film, especially when it comes to Black women. Okay, so that was a very nice touch. Excuse the noise in the background. I live in like a noisy building, so disregard that. Then you have his Uncle Jerome, which he's my favorite character. I think he is realistic in the sense that, he's a loving uncle, but at the same time, living in those conditions, he understands the importance of making money and feeding the family. So his role is pretty much like a mentor, somebody that kind of guides Franklin throughout the drug business. And he's also like the muscle, you know, because he has done time, because he has quote unquote street cred. Franklin can kind of move through the neighborhood without any issues because, you know, his uncle got his back, and they know that, you know, his uncle really about that. So Jerome is like, he's pretty cool, laid back. I like his character. And then of course you have his wife, well, common law wife. Her name is Aunt Louie, and Louie is the type of chick that is tough but really nice. You know, like if you see her in the street, you wouldn't be threatened. However, if you try her, she will let you know what's up. You know, I really like her character as well. In the beginning of the series, you find out that she is bisexual, and she is, you know, pretty much their relationship is very relaxed. So you have her. She was a big supporter of Franklin when he first got into the drug game. And then you have, you know, these other characters that are, you know, on the side. Teddy McDonald, who has a alias, Reed Thompson. This guy has a heart, but it's unfortunate that, you know, when you're in this type of business, that you just do things, you know, you do things that you don't want to do, but in order to survive, in order to maintain, you have to kill people, you have to, you know, murder and hide the evidence. So it's like he struggles the fine line between doing his job, and he's sort of lost in his role as a double operative. So you have the CIA affiliation there. So basically he is the middle person between the government and the drug dealers who are selling on the streets. So the whole premise of the show is basically showing that drugs were not just coming out of, you know, straight from Colombia. You know, the plug is actually the US government. So that's an interesting scope. Now, granted, the US government during this time did not control the majority of the drugs coming into America, but they did have a good majority of the drugs coming into Los Angeles. So a lot of people weren't aware that there was a war going on in Central America, and pretty much he was assigned to the case to basically fund the war via drug money. So let's talk about that. So let's put that into perspective. You have the US government aiding you know, drug dealers in the sale of crack cocaine. Now, originally when cocaine came into the United States, it was a party drug. It was more so a drug for the elite. You have to have money to do cocaine, you know, and pretty much they found out a way to basically create a cheaper version of the drug that gives you a faster high. And the high is very quick, so I hear. I never tried it. And you know, it gets you there, and it's cheaper. So at the time, people were actually freebasing, which is a whole nother process from crack cocaine, and then they developed it into the crack cocaine that we know today. And then you have Melody. So Melody is the girlfriend, crush, whatever you call it, of Franklin Sade. So she grew up with him, you know, she's seen the transition between him being a good kid and him being a drug dealer. So you know, throughout the series he struggles with that, you know, trying to be the good guy, but also, you know, when you get money you want to maintain that, you want to keep it. So a lot of his morale kind of went out the window and we'll kind of see. I would want you guys to actually watch the series to make your own assumption about, you know, how he straddles that line. So all right, so then we have Andre Wright, which is the father of Melody Wright, the police officer of the neighborhood. He is pretty much he wants to see a change in the neighborhood. So he is a huge proponent in cleaning up the streets, you know, making sure there's not any gang violence or troubles going on. And we see the progression of his character as well. It's very interesting what happens to him. We have Avi. Avi is the drug dealer of all drug dealers. He's very flamboyant. He's very funny. Every time he's on the screen, he steals the show. I think so. He's just very interesting. And I appreciate the actor because his mannerisms and things like that, it's so Avi. You know, very flashy, Versace shirt, just very extravagant. He is actually responsible for getting Franklin into the drug gang. So he is the reason why he was able to have cocaine so readily in the beginning of his career, his drug dealing career. So if it wasn't for Avi, he wouldn't have been, you know, put into the drug gang. Okay, so once they kind of have a situation where, I'm gonna give you a quick spoiler, where police is involved, okay, that's when he starts to form the relationship with Teddy, the CIA agent. So that's how their dynamic began, because there was some sort of issue, okay, that happened with Avi. Alton Saint is the father of Franklin. He is estranged in the beginning. So pretty much his role is, as a father is, I'm gonna be honest, in the beginning he wasn't really present. In the beginning of the series, we see the progression and he starts to get close with Franklin. However, he is not a fan of what Franklin is doing. He is a former Black Panther party member, and he is pretty much all about, you know, advancing the community and doing good things. We see his character progress. He starts off as an alcoholic, and then he later runs a nonprofit. So yeah, his character is very interesting. Gustavo, who is a wrestler, he is sort of like the muscle of you know, of a drug family, which we meet, the Villanuevas. Their story is pretty short, meaning it doesn't carry over into the later season, but in the beginning seasons, we meet the Villanuevas. They are a drug cartel. They started off, I believe, selling marijuana and things like that, and then they kind of got into the cocaine business. So not only do we see how Franklin's character is deep into the drug business, we see how other communities get into it as well. So the Spanish or Latino group, they're also in it as well. So we get to see that dynamic with the Villanueva family. Who else do we have here? So yeah, so those, in my opinion, are the main characters. So there are other characters who are pretty funny and have reoccurring roles. You have Wanda, who she starts off as the girlfriend of Leon. Leon is Franklin Saint's best friend. She begins as the girlfriend, and then we see her evolve into a crackhead and then into a reformed crackhead. So her character is pretty funny. We get to see that dynamic. I think she does an amazing job playing that role. As I was editing, I noticed that I totally forgot to include two major characters. These characters are Manboy and Scully. They are representatives of the Blood and Crip gang in the Los Angeles area. So they show the dynamic between these two gangs and the rivalry that has caused a lot of lives to be lost. Manboy, considered to be the Crip representative, he has a sister who is the baby mother of Scully. So Scully is the Blood and he is the top blood. So basically, we see the two having their rivalry and how it causes tension in the neighborhood. Now, let's talk about the actual series. So, the series was actually created by one of my favorite directors, John Singleton. Rest in peace to him. This was his vision. You know, he wanted to humanize these people, humanize the drug dealer, the crack addict, and the people far and in between. I think every season it just gets better and better. Okay, so let's talk about how I got into the series. So, you know, one day I just decided to watch the show. I've heard about it through the grapevine. Everybody and their mother has seen the show but me. So one day I decided, hey, let me just go check it out for once, right? So I was pleasantly surprised and I just couldn't stop watching because of the drama, because of, at first I was a little apprehensive to watch the series because of the fact that we have shows like Power already. It's sort of like Power, but it's better. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like if I gotta pair the two, I think Snowfall is better than Power. Like, honestly, it's just the characters are more developed, and I'm not gonna take away from the show Power. I think what 50 Cent did was amazing. You know, he pushed the boundaries as far as like cinematography and story and things like that. We never seen something like that. I personally feel like Power came and walked so that Snowfall can run. If it wasn't for, you know, Power, I don't think there would be an interest like that. Now, granted, there are shows like The Wire, which is a pretty good show. It shows the Baltimore perspective of the drug game in the early 2000s. So that was the perspective then. So we never seen how the crack epidemic truly affected the communities. So I think this is not only entertaining, but it's very educational too. It gives you a whole nother perspective of the epidemic. So yeah. As far as writing goes, I think this is the best show on television right now. Now, there are other shows, obviously, like Ozark. Great show. I highly, highly recommend this show. Ozark, what other show? I don't really watch shows like that. So, I'm old school. I like to watch throwback shows because they were just better. But honestly, this is probably one of the few shows that I genuinely enjoy watching that is really good on TV. Of course, you have Game of Thrones, Ozark, what else? Insecure. Those shows are good, you know, but this show is really, really good because it just gives you everything. So just to sum it all up, guys, I think this is worth your time. If you're searching for something to watch that is entertaining, that has a good story, great cinematography, I think this is a good option for you. Because it's not only entertaining, it's very, very educational and interesting. It's never been done to this capacity. Now, I do have a few concerns. I genuinely feel like the series, it sort of takes on the life of the famous drug dealer, Rick Ross. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. but he wasn't really happy that a lot of the things that he told John Singleton ended up on the show. So that is one criticism. I feel like they should give some sort of homage or credit to Rick Ross, because literally, if you Google Rick Ross and his story about the Contras, the CIA, and things like that, his elevation into the drug game and becoming a kingpin, we get to see that in this series. And it's almost like, I wonder where they got that inspiration from. And it's clear as day that they got it from Rick Ross, because I watch a lot of interviews on YouTube. You know, there's certain platforms that Rick Ross has been on, and there's one particular platform that he's been on regularly, and he talks about his dislike of the series. But in all honesty, I think if he actually watched it, he would really enjoy it. It's just that they took part of his life. It's clear as day. So yeah, these are my thoughts. If you guys want to go ahead and subscribe, and please, y'all, check me out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the social media platforms. They will be in the description box.